was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on when those sirens are gone.
And welcome to another Mad Radio. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is your First Responders Network. I am your host tonight, Sam. John is on assignment doing amazing things. He will return next week with us. And, you know, we have had, despite what's going on in the United States with defund the police and I mean, let's just face it, law enforcement and all first responders have targets on their back right now. There are some good things happening, and I am happy to report from South Dakota that the politicians there take what first responders do very seriously, and they have passed, there's 2 bills just about ready to be passed that provide not only money to the first responder directly to get whatever kind of treatment or assistance that he or she feels is necessary for them, but it would also create a fund where the department can tap into it and have money for training, because some of the smaller departments, we even have the case here in Texas where the smaller departments sometimes don't have the same opportunities because they don't have the grant writers, they don't have the larger budgets in order to build in a brain health budget. I just love that term. Thank you, Todd Geary from Garland PD, who's a great friend of the show, great friend of a badge of honor. And that's what we're going with, brain health, because it just, everybody, you got to have brain health, right? We got body health, we got heart health, we got every other kind of health. We need brain health. And this is what we're all about, talking about brain health, about assistance for first responders, and the programs that are out there to assist. And on tonight's show, we have she is an incredible woman. She writes regularly. She has a column for the Police Blues magazine. And in addition to like really eye-opening articles, I'm going to add her to the stream here. Dr. Chena Jaeckle is she's a licensed clinical social worker in Florida and has 25 years of mental health and crisis intervention experience. She has presented nationally on issues of crisis, trauma, stress, critical incidents, officer-involved shootings and resiliency, suicide in law enforcement, child abuse, homicide, domestic violence, and mental illness. She serves as a mental health and training coordinator for several critical incident stress management and hostage negotiation teams, and now consults with numerous law enforcement agencies across the nation. Dr. Jaeckle is also the current EAP counselor for Jacksonville, Florida Sheriff's Office. She has extensive experience in the development, coordination, and training of law enforcement and fire rescue, critical incident teams, and peer support programs. She's also board certified in emergency crisis response and bereavement trauma through the American Academy of Experts in Traumatic Stress, a member of the American Board of Critical Incident Professionals. She's a fellow with the National Center for Crisis Management, a former visiting professor of the FBI Academy. Won't hold that against you. In Quantico, you know, Secret Service, FBI. A past visiting instructor with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the US DOJ, and certified in force science analysis. She's completed a fellowship at the FBI's Futurist in Residence for 2008-2009 and conducted research on illegal immigration, culture, and future policing implications. Dr. Jaeckle received the Distinguished Alumni Award for the Criminal Justice Institute at Nova Southeastern University and the Commitment to Social Change Award from Walden University for raising awareness on PTSD issues for first responders. Dr. Jaeckle received a Bachelor of Science degree in criminology from Florida Southern College and completed a master's degree in social work from the University of Houston. She also completed a master's of science degree in criminal justice with a specialty track in the behavioral sciences from Nova Southeastern University, and earned a PhD in the humanities and social sciences with an emphasis on conflict analysis and resolution from the same institution. Current graduate faculty affiliations include Walden University, Nova Southeastern University, Martin Methodist College, and the University of Texas, Permian Basin. Woohoo! Active research agendas include police and resiliency studies in collaboration with Walden University, Yale University, and Columbia University. Welcome, Dr. Jaeckle.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
It is so great to have you with us tonight, and I'm going to open up the comment stream here. Okay. You guys that are listening out there on Facebook and on YouTube, the comment post is open. So if you have a comment, if you have a question at any point during our broadcast tonight, please go ahead and post them, and I will make sure that Dr. Jaeckle gets a chance to respond and answer the questions. And we're gonna dive right in, because your bio, I mean, you have been doing this work deep in post-traumatic stress with first responders for a really long time. First, from me, thank you so much. We need more of you out there, because we are in such a critical time with our first responders. John and I have been talking for more than a year when this COVID thing first kicked off that, you know, when things started to slow down, we weren't going to see a slowdown in the suicides. We're going to see an uptick, and sure enough, that's where we are right now. Now, very interestingly, and if you guys saw the preview for the show, you saw that I really want to dive into EAP with Dr. Jaeckle, because EAP kind of has a bad rap out there. A lot of first responders, they're like, you know, I don't trust my department, number one, because of the stigma attached. They've watched other first responders go through, you know, their crap and not treated well by the department, whether it's they were ostracized or outright fired. So gosh, who's going to speak up then? But also just the need to we just want to keep our stuff private. And when I was in law enforcement, you know, right, there was a running joke. It was, EAP was like, it was a verb. It's like, oh my God, you're going to get eeped, you know? And you did not want that.
I've heard it.
You didn't want that to have happen. And John has talked before how any officer involved shooting, they sit down with EAP, have you know, very 20-minute conversation. Okay, oh, how are you doing? Good. Okay, sign off here, go back to work. Kind of a bad rap in that, you know, I'll say most, not all, most EAP folks never carried a gun or hose. They don't understand what being a first responder is all about. your bio sets you apart. You clearly understand because you've been in this world for such a long time. How are you making EAP work? How is it set up, and how is it working in your department?
Well, Sam, so thank you so much for allowing me to come in and talk about this. I tell every first responder I get a chance to interact with, it's a blessing for me to walk along with you in the journey. It really is. I never take for granted for a moment that, you know, especially in the most difficult of times, that you allow me into your lives to try to help. So thank you for that. It really is my honor. You know, just to give you a little bit of background, the EAP services that I provide are specific to Jacksonville, Florida Sheriff's Office. So the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has about 1,800 sworn on the street, about 650 corrections, and Sheriff Mike Williams came to me along with Steve Zona, who's the president of the FOP, local FOP. And Steve was instrumental in really getting this started and saying, look, we need to do better by our officers. Meaning they really didn't have an outlet. There's typically, for a lot of agencies, there's a EAP, right? Like you said, this part, it's a contracted out agency that typically has few to any therapists or counselors who really understand the first responder culture. As you said, you know, that because I've never carried a badge, I've never dragged a hose, but I have done this now for 21 years and made it my mission to really understand as much as I can through ride-alongs, through sitting down and having meals, through training, through, you know, just really about. So this started essentially in 2018, about January 2018. But in 2017, Florida had Kissimmee Police Department. You may remember this, had 2 officers that were killed in the same night, and by a man who had mental illness. And you know, this touched a lot of people and said, you know, this is getting more, because that's where I think, if you remember, it's always been challenging for first responders, but we really started to see that transition when things were getting really tough. Line of duty deaths were going up, you know, violence against officers, things like that. So FOP came to me and said, listen, I'm going to propose this to the sheriff, and that we make you an EAP counselor that focuses solely on police and corrections. We'll keep our other EAP services for, you know, civilian employees, families, etc. So what they were interested in doing is setting something up that was specific to the needs of police and corrections. So that's what we did. And the coolest thing about this was basically they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to set aside. Now, I understand this is a large agency, so small agencies may have difficulty with this. We're going to set aside essentially a contract. You design it, you set it up. And so what I did was I have an offsite office. I'm not embedded into the sheriff's office. I think that's an important part here, meaning I am separate from anything like fitness for duty. Okay. It is very clear that I don't manage any of that. We have a forensic psychologist who handles that. I am solely there for support and counsel. No one is sent to me mandatorily, which is a great thing. So people have to seek out. The other thing that I make sure that they do, there is a designated phone number that comes directly to me. So I fly very low under the radar. And of course, everything that's said to me is kept confidential with the exception of harm to self or others. I don't get involved in internals. I don't get involved. I mean, I am strictly there for support. So we started that, like I said, in January of 2018. It's been going strong. We've renewed the contract ever since. You know, I do go out. I still do ride-alongs and so forth. The rest of my agencies, I do a lot of the critical incident management. I oversee their critical incident teams. And occasionally, if there is an officer or deputy that needs more follow-up, I've had now sheriffs step forward and police chiefs say, hey, sorry about the kitty. we can all counseling with them. But it's taken a long time to get here. Again, I've done it for 21 years. So, my point about EAP is that it can work, but you have to make sure the right person is in the mix. You have to make sure they have your officers have access to them. And it could be, pretty much 24/7. Sometimes I'll get a message on Facebook Messenger that says, "Hey, Doc, I'm sitting in a car in the middle of the world, I'm not doing well. Can you take a phone call?" Absolutely. Let's talk, and let's talk through this. So, building this trust is extremely important.
Yeah, trust is huge, because that, as you know, will and from just being with the crisis incident management teams, you show up after something bad goes down, and people don't want to talk in front of each other. People don't, the more I'll call it clinicals, the more doctors you have in a room, the more likely you're going to have the first responders just,
Absolutely.
and it's it is tough. And when I'm curious, when the sheriff said, we're going to create this program, you're going to run it, you put it together how you see fit. How did he do? Were you there when he pitched it to, I call it the troops, so that they could see if he had the trust in you to run the program, and you vice versa? They could see that the trust that came from top down and from you to the sheriff.
Right. And he actually, and it was one of those moments for me. We actually sat down with the undersheriff, Pat Ivy, and Steve Zona, the president of the FOP, and their budget chief. And, we talked numbers, and, because this wasn't about a numbers game for me, it was about, look, how can we provide the best services possible, most accessible, and the most trustworthy? And, I remember that moment where I said, do you want, which is typical of EAP providers, I said, do you want to bid it out? Do you want to see other? And he said, absolutely not. He said, the sheriff wants you. And I said, well, that'd be great, if he could put out an email. And he basically said, look, we're going to do this. This is fantastic. And it's, like I said, it's working. There's always organizational issues. I mean, it's a huge agency. So, we have to time and time again, put something out to say, hey, here's her number, reach out to her. I will tell you now, though, fortunately, I'm going on 3 years. It's by word of mouth now. And, because I'll ask, how'd you hear? Oh, so-and-so at the jail said they came and saw you, and that's cool. And you were cool. And you know how it goes. It's like, yeah, she's cool. She'll work with you. But here's the other component that is extremely important in this, I think. And we talk about culture shift, and Sam, I've been doing this so long. I was talking to a friend of mine today on the phone who he and I both been doing this between 20 and 25 years. And I said, John, we did this when it wasn't sexy, when it wasn't, yes, there's all these programs out there, and said, which is fantastic. Right? Because we now have more programs than I could have ever imagined. We were doing it when we would walk in. I was a mental health professional walking into a sheriff's department, volunteering my time and in service. And they're like, get out, girl. Who are you? It just there was just so much that was completely closed.
Yeah.
As a culture to a tremendous amount, the fact that you have this show, the fact that there's all these programs. And so all of this has actually built on itself to become a very positive thing. I'm a huge believer. I'm not territorial. I'm a huge believer that we can never have enough services for first responders. I mean, it's like still like a drop in the bucket. But going back to culture change, one of the things that I said from the get-go, and I believe I said and made this comment previously on your show, we have to start from the beginning. One of the things that law enforcement has done consistently is react, not be proactive in this. So I go in and I have an 8-hour course that I teach in stress and resiliency and PTS and how it's going to impact your family. And I have retired officers and active duty officers come in and talk about their experiences and, what has worked for them. This is presented to every police and corrections class before they ever hit the road or the jail. And they get a book, they get Kevin Gilmartin's book, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, and it's like, there's your Bible, you need to read this now. They get my card. I talk to them about this and say, hey, here I am, reach out. And I will tell you, seeing this over 3 years is such a powerful shift, because with every class is a new culture shift. With every class, there's an understanding that there is somebody out there, and that they can trust. And of course, again, I have some of the old traditional dogs come in and basically say the same thing. Look, I didn't talk about it, but she's cool. I'll talk to her about it. So I'm very fortunate with that. But we have to start there. So I'm lucky to get them before they ever am. They know my face. They know they know my phone number. All of these different things. I also see their families in terms of especially if it's related to, I'll do marriage counseling. If it's related to the job, stress issues, a lot of officers, especially men, will end up on my couch because the wife said, hey, dude, look, you need to go get some help. And I was like, why are you here? Well, because my wife said I needed to be here. Okay, fair enough. So, but I think that we're missing that component is we have to start with the education, and we have to.
Yeah, it's something that the background of a badge of honor. We're in front of the law enforcement officers and first responders, and we are huge advocates for this. Has got to be at least be in every academy class before they go out, so they know what to expect. I have the just complete honor and privilege of being able to do that with one of the local sheriff's departments here that are close by me, and it does make a difference. And when you can put a face to, hey, we're going to have this block on post traumatic stress, and there's a lot of education, and we have the docs that come in and the PhDs, but here's Sam,
exactly,
tell it like it is, because one of the biggest things that made us go about forming a badge of honor the way we did is we were all at one point or another in our careers, and for me and John post career, we still have the access to the seminars, to the educational platforms and everything, and it all comes down to one thing for us is, can you use what you're learning, or are you having to go back, what did this person say, and look through a book or look through your notes? And while I love to learn from the PhDs, the docs, about the research, what I love most are the docs that are embedded with departments. They're seeing it on a daily. They're not that once or twice removed. And I think you said in the beginning of the show, you're doing the ride-alongs. You are there with them. You understand the culture. You have a relationship with the sheriff, and you built, because it is about relationships. That's where the trust comes from, right?
Right.
That just because you have the contract doesn't mean you stop playing, getting out there and in the muck and seeing it. And I'd say God help these departments in the cities that have decided to defund the police, to put social workers that are not like you in with the police officers. It's just it's
going to end badly. I mean, it's going to end badly. And honestly, and I am a social worker by background, Sam. And I've said to many people, I said, even with all my training and expertise, I'll be damned if I'm going to show up on a bad domestic violence incident and heck no way. there's such a lack of understanding of the dynamics. Those who are making these rules and laws, they do not understand the true dynamics of how dangerous these situations can be.
Yeah.
So the other component to this is we have made it so clean for these officers and their families to come in. There's no copay. They don't deal with money. And at the end of the month, I essentially bill by hour. I don't ever bill by name. So they have no idea who I'm seeing. They have no idea. So, and I could do virtual. I could go, meet them for dinner. It doesn't matter, whatever it takes to meet them where they are. Right. There's a disconnect. We talk about, the doc side of things. I've been a social worker for 25 years. I'm going to get out in the field and do what I need to do to meet them where they are.
Yeah, well, you're making the effort, and that's the key, because I'm sure on the flip side, you have probably worked with or come across folks in your line of field that, look at you like, why would I do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, those folks, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work with first responders. It just isn't. And I also thought it was very interesting how you are completely separate. So you're not like EAP is most of the time in the office or connected to the office or down the street from the office. But there is that connection to city, county, however it looks. So the fact that you are completely separated from that, I think, is also key. Have you worked with other jurisdictions in helping them set up through their EAP programs that are like yours in Jacksonville?
Oh, absolutely. Especially locally. I do this for 2 or 3 different agencies, and it's expanding more all the time. I signed a couple of contracts recently just for small agencies. And I am more than happy to, if somebody reached out, via the show or reached out to you and said, look, I'd love to get more information, because this really is a best practices model. You just don't see this very often. On top of that, my office is not anywhere near the sheriff's office. It's at an offsite location at a non-law enforcement related building. There's privacy. Nobody knows you're there. You can come and go, things like that. So I am more than happy to, if anybody reaches out and says, look, I'd love some more information. I'd love to talk to Tina and see what she could maybe offer in terms of helping us set up our own type program. But again, you have to, it's not about bringing a therapist in and then training that therapist then to understand law enforcement. Right. You have to find the people that already understand it in order to come in. So one of the blessings I had was that I had already been out in the field all these years. So by the time I got into this kind of role, I fortunately had some name recognition that I knew at least a little bit what I was doing. So,
yeah, and you've lectured and been out there nationally speaking all over the place about this and the importance of it. You get, and I love this, you get to the folks in the academy before they're on the street. It didn't obviously start out like that, because you had folks that are already on the street when you came in. How did you kind of dispel the myths or maybe break through some of the talk like, oh, that stuff doesn't work, from I'll call it the seasoned sheriff deputies that might have the old, just suck it up, move on, go get a drink, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Only one drink? No, it's usually many. That's a great question, Sam. I think over time, again, it's being present and being out there in front of them and getting to know them on a level. Again, I may have a doctor title up here, but I'm just Tina or Doc out there on the street. So, time, trust, patience, just showing them that I'm going to actually be there. And that's the biggest thing. If I say I'm going to be there, I better be there. And this is where, there's a line for me between, I don't do this 9 to 5.
Right.
This is a calling and a passion for me, which means in crisis and trauma work, and you guys are going to have the worst time of your life, sometimes sitting in a car at 2 a.m. and having a panic attack. I mean, I've had people have that. But they have to have a voice on the other end. They have to know the ability to reach out to somebody and talk, that they can trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had officers, especially new officers, say to me, "Look, I think I'm in over my head. I don't think I want to do this job." Understandably so. This is a crazy career right now. But I also say, look, I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go to my sergeant. And I'm going to tell him tonight that I don't want to. Whoa! Let's back up. And how about you don't feel well, and you probably just need to go home and get some rest before you make that decision. But this is an ongoing. I also believe that as part of this entire system that we've built, we have to address what I call from cradle to grave. Okay, meaning suicide doesn't stop. Obviously, we see higher levels of suicide among our retired folks, right? So from cradle, meaning let's get them in the academy. Let's start that cultural shift. And then what I also do then is offer, COVID's been a little difficult with this, of course, but offer during the year 2 or 3 workshops where I'll work in conjunction with FOP, have a dinner, bring in, have discussions with, officers and their families on, how to manage stress on marriage, how to manage finances, how to, so it's an ongoing aspect. There's a course that I'm getting ready to go back to teaching that's transitioning into retirement, for those who are about a year out and starting to go through, oh, hell, what am I going to do now? That kind of thing.
Right.
But also, just we have to do better at just continuing this process throughout the entire lifespan career of an officer.
Absolutely. And I have friends who are, starting programs, nonprofits to be there, be that network for folks that are retiring, because once you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
And you maintain a few, relationships for folks still in, but then as everybody starts to transition, you really feel like, part of your identity is lost because it's been that gun and that badge in your job for so long. It is the quiet moments when this starts kicking in and you're like, what's going on?
Right.
And, because you're already separated from the department, it's not like you can pick up the phone and get somebody, hey, I need help. You're calling in the department. So that's a huge key. Part of your, I just want to shift for a second. Part of your bio that I read was around peer support programs. And there's a big move and shift in a lot of the larger Texas departments. And I would imagine it's spreading out from here, that peer support and having a peer support program with trained peer support. It's not just like, hey, let's go talk to your buddy.
Exactly.
With
Right.
trained peer support, like there's a way to do peer support and there's a way not to do peer support, because you can really mix it up. But with trained folks that are in there that truly are making a difference, so that if somebody can't get to you for whatever the reason,
Right.
that they have a safety net. And this is what I wrote about in the magazine, Police Blues magazine, for the month, is creating your safety net. So I can't get a hold of Doc Tina.
Exactly.
And I've got this peer support where how do you I'll say counsel, and for lack of a better word, the peer support team to work in conjunction, so that if somebody says the magic words,
right,
that they can get to you, the peer supporter, or help the first responder say, you need to call Dr. T right now.
Right. Right. And that's a great question. And I have, right now I have 10 SISM teams that I oversee. And, like I did with the EAP with JSO, one of the things that I actually do is I go in and I help them develop their team. So I'm in on the ground level. So policy, whether it's policy, selection, guidelines, they have to be trained at least in the, individual peer support model, ICISF. I mean, there's all kinds of great models out there. I'm an approved trainer in those areas. So what I do is I come in, I'm kind of one-stop shop. So I'll work with the administration and talk with them and help them develop how they kind of envision this team and what they need to really make it effective, like you said. And then part of that then is I then become their mental health coordinator and their training coordinator. So I have this ongoing relationship with these teams. The nice thing about it is, the vast majority of things that officers or law enforcement or first responders to is support from peer supporters. I'm a huge believer in peer supporters. But I am out there as kind of the umbrella over the team. So I say to them when I train them after they've been selected to be a part of the team, and we do some painstaking tasks to select the right people for these teams, because your team is only as good as the people that you have on it or that you can trust, right? Because one person that would violates that, your team's over. So, but during training, they recognize, and we go through scenario-based training that basically says, in this particular situation, this is when you pick up the phone and call me, right? Or if you ever are in an uncomfortable situation where you feel you're in over your head, call me, because I'm the umbrella over all of these teams.
Right.
Like I said, the vast majority, maybe somebody's going through a divorce, children, issue with children, job issues, things like that. And those are perfect for peer support teams. Where I come in a lot of times, unfortunately, is when all hell breaks loose, when officers killed in the line of duty, or injured, or, I have a rural county sheriff's office that is just the bomb. They are the best. I would have never thought in a million years. It's the Putnam County Sheriff's Office in Florida. And I tell you, but they are, and it speaks for how strong their organization is in terms of how much they believe in this program. They sadly had a couple of deputies recently who were in a very serious car accident. And the first call I get was from the undersheriff, who basically said, I'm on my way there. Don't know what I'm dealing with yet, but I'm letting you know what's going on. And that's the way it should work. That's the way it should, right at the beginning, not 3 days later. Oh, by the way.
Right. And can you come in and
something like this happened? That's the way it should happen.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
The after doesn't work. And my dogs apparently agree with that statement about the after. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. It just is amazing to hear how much camaraderie and trust you have that goes both ways. It really is. We have heard of peer support programs kind of going sideways because it wasn't necessarily a violation of trust, but it's the lack of buy-in from the peer supporters, so the people that are on the team. And it's like, if you're going to do the training, and I put up the ICISF.org site here because they have great training, that if this is something that you want to explore and you want to do, you need to understand that you need to be in with your heart. Everything has to be in play. And you have to be there 100%. You have to be present, because the last thing you want is to say, hey, I was talking about this and so didn't seem to really be listening, or there wasn't a feeling of support. And once it's one person was like, nah, that's it. And so it is a huge commitment.
Mhm.
And the buy-in is 100%, not 99.9.
Totally, completely agree. And that's something I reiterate when people are going through training. I'll say to them at the get-go, some of you after this training will know that this is not for you, because I'm telling you, if somebody's going to call you, if you say you're going to be there and somebody calls you at 3 a.m., pick up the damn phone, and be there, be present for them. I said, because crisis does not pick a time frame for you. If this is not for you and it's too much, that's fine. You got some good training, walk away. But if you're really committed, then yeah, we want you on this team.
Yeah. That is huge. Okay, so I have to ask, because you did work with at the FBI Academy, and the behavioral sciences unit at the Academy is, I mean, it's worldwide known, renowned. There's been a lot of folks through there that have done fantastic works. I mean, that's how we catch serial killers, right? And I say we, not me. That's how the FBI catches serial killers. Okay,
and it's all true. Everything on TV
White
is
House.
true.
Okay, that's where I come in, or protectee. But yeah, so the FBI just doesn't bring in just anybody that has a good resume. And I want folks to understand that your background and everything that you've done has been on purpose to bring you to the point of what you're doing now.
Right.
And if you hadn't really done all this and been out there speaking, the sheriff may not have come across your path. And sorry, when you say FBI, been at Quantico, like that speaks volumes. What did you do there?
Well, other than getting lost at Quantico on the base sometimes, yeah, and meeting a lot of Marines doing that, where are you going and why are you lost? I had I have a very dear friend who actually started out. His name is Dr. Greg Becky. He was in school with me, in graduate school with me, and he was an FBI, and when we met each other, he was doing a lot of hostage negotiation training across the nation. Well, I said, you know what? I would love to bring in the mental health side of this. Him from the law enforcement side, me from mental health. So we actually trained all over the nation. Well, it wasn't long after that he actually was offered the position to become unit chief for the behavioral science unit. At Quantico, at the FBI Academy. Of course, they oversee the National Academy. And so, knowing him and having worked with, so he already knew, I actually came in and taught on crisis management issues. And this wasn't too long after Katrina. And, what we were learning about first responders under extreme pressure in situations. And of course, what happens when 60% of your agency, leaves because their families are affected too. So I taught on those issues, on managing crisis management issues at the Academy, for the National Academy, and also for FBI agents, the new FBI agents. So it was amazing. So I applied, while I was there, I applied under what they call the Police Futurist International, for what they call the Futurist in Residence program. And I was selected. So what we did as futurists, police futurists, is look at trends 10, 20, 30 years out, kind of doing predictive nature of it. So with that, I completed a research project with the FBI on something called the 287G program, which basically dual deputized local law enforcement and allowed them to manage illegal immigration issues, particularly serious offenders. So I went out and instead, so most people did the research from the Academy. I went out and I interviewed people. I looked at best practices models. I went down to the border of Arizona. I spent 2 weeks with ICE. I mean, all of those different things to really see firsthand what they were dealing with. So it was a great experience. Very, very cool.
Okay, so with that being said, and the research that you did and the predictive policing models,
Mm-hmm.
Was it based upon where we are now in 2021?
Well, you know, COVID,
Is that on track, or does the road kind of?
I mean, COVID kind of, skewed that model, but, I think in a lot of ways, I mean, talking to other police futurists at the time, sadly, I think we did predict the increase in violence against officers. I don't think what we expected as much is the really toxic negativity
Right.
Towards officers. I think that's been kind of a surprise to all of us.
Which now is what is, really what officers, a lot of them are having trouble with the most. And I'm sure, they're talking to you about that on a daily basis. It's, hey, doc, I can handle, the bloody murder scene or the domestic violence. I can't handle my kid getting threatened in school because of what I do. I can't, I'm having a hard time dealing with my community, who has at one point embraced me for what I did and now is looking to run me out of my own neighborhood.
Right. And I do hear a lot of that. One of the things I try to remind them, though, and officers in general, it's that is very much a vocal minority. Okay. Unfortunately, the majority of folks who really do appreciate and respect police officers in the last couple of years, especially, are now speaking. I'm going, let's. But it was a vocal minority for a long time who was getting the stage, so to speak. I think the biggest concern, for me now is looking at kind of the unchecked policies that are being passed. Getting away from qualified immunity, getting away, these things that allow officers to do their job. So that's been scary to me in the last year. But I think that fingers crossed in time, I hope that'll pull back some. But as long as media and social media and all of that is around, officers and first responders are going to have to take a step back and realize that is it's very skewed in the way that it's presented, and that the vast majority of people still very much respect and honor what they're doing.
Yeah, one of the big things is people that tell me that they, that are still in the job, that watch the news. I was like, you can't do that. The mainstream media, and frankly, social media, is very much painting you in a negative light, no matter what.
Right.
There's few publications like, Law Enforcement Today that put out the good stories that we try to get around, and that South Dakota with the legislation that hopefully, knock on wood, will go through no problem. But you cannot, because that's what we did. We had a news media on running in the background all day long in the offices, in the stations. And because that's how we managed, whatever crisis was going on, so that the folks that weren't out on the street yet, that were preparing, they could see coverage. That's not happening now. It's the talking head, that's being fed into an earpiece, not necessarily on the scene and then it's skewed.
Yep. You're spot on. Absolutely.
And frankly, responding to an incident, you almost, I look at it this way, you almost have to have, so you've got the first responders, that inner circle that are responding to the immediate crisis. You almost have to have another outer circle watching your back for protection. And I don't like to say that. That is horrible. That is not how law enforcement should be. But coming from a Secret Service background, seeing officers being drawn into an incident and then attacked.
Yep, exactly.
More now than ever, we need to be looking out for our departments whenever we are out there. Hypervigilance sucks.
Yes, it
But you
does.
got to accept that that is part of the job, and you also need to have proper tactics and tools to bring you when you're off duty, kind of set you back at center. Because without that, that hypervigilance can just woo.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's why you know the departments that are lucky to have you, Doc, they're super lucky to have you because that's what you do, and they don't go out onto the street. Now they may forget. They may be like, oh shoot, I'm in this, I need this. What did Dr. Jaeckle say? Oh, let me pick up the phone, or let me ask somebody else because they're sitting in the class with you.
Right. Exactly. It's you know, it's amazing. And then, you know, again, it goes back to the beginning. Those tools are just absolutely essential. And you know, I had just very quickly, I had actually a corrections officer, long-term corrections officer, come in and see me recently. And it took, you know, his wife said, get out. His kids, you know, didn't like him, all of these different things. And I finally, you know, he goes, I had no idea what this was doing to me. I had no idea. And it took all of that, and he finally woke up, and he finally started to realize. And of course, then he read Kevin Gilmart's book. He's like, "Holy crap, that's me!" You know,
you put him up in front of a room or get that
exactly.
Oh.
You know, but he got it. He got it, and now he's, you know, now he's having those conversations with his family, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. It really is.
That is fantastic. Well, look, we have people from all across the globe that tune in.
Okay.
How can you work in a police agency, you want to institute something, how can people reach out and just ask questions? What's the best?
Absolutely. Let me give you my my email address. Let me give you my personal email address. It's first initial last name, so it's TJAECKLE Jaeckle at BellSouth BELLSOUTH.net.
Okay.
Jaeckle at BellSouth.net. And of course they can reach out to you too, and you've got my contact information, and you know, I would love to talk to them. Absolutely. I would love to see something like this just go completely viral across. I mean, it really.
Well, you know that John and I, we're going to be working on a lot of stuff as soon as the dust settles completely with everything that he went through. And if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, you definitely want to go back and watch it was the March. I want to give the correct date out to everybody. It was the March 3rd, I believe. The March 3rd or the show. No, I'm sorry. It was the February. He came back. It was the February 10th show that you can hear all about what John went through. And Doc, we may be reaching out to you for some of that. How do we form, you know, best practices, policy, language, stuff like that. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For sharing with us today. And hey, EAP programs work if you get them set up correctly. And we are surely just, I mean, we were blessed by you tonight to just explain how you did it. And, you know, it doesn't take a miracle. It doesn't take an act of God. It takes people that are willing to sit down, to work with each other, to trust each other, that they're there for the first responders. And just kudos to you and the Jacksonville, Florida sheriff that saw the big picture and really is doing right by his department. So yeah, with that, any parting thoughts for our first responders listening out there?
Just know how much I adore and value each and every one of you. Just stay safe, and keep up the mission.
All right. Well, thank you again. Yeah, thank you again, Dr. Jaeckle, for being with us. Thank you for being a friend of Mad Radio. And folks, I put Dr. Tina's email. She's generous enough to give out her personal email is right there.
Absolutely.
We'll be adding it again to the show notes when this gets uploaded and everything tomorrow. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate you.
Have a good one. So, amazing, amazing show with Dr. Tina Jaeckle. Folks, she is the real deal. She has made inroads into multiple departments in Florida, and just, you heard it, she lives it. This is what she does. We need more people who want to make a difference in their departments. They want to walk the walk, talk the talk 24/7, because it is not only a thankless job, but it is the most rewarding job to be able to be out there saving lives. So speaking of doing awesome things, hey, if you are tuning in on either of our Facebook pages, whether it's from Mad Radio or a Badge of Honor, thank you. Jump on over to our YouTube page. You go to youtube.com and just type in Mad Radio Texas. Just hit the subscribe button. You know, you're not paying for anything. It's not like a magazine subscription. We're not going to ask you to pay for anything. But what it does is when you subscribe, it ups our numbers and it allows us to do more with our YouTube page. So it's really very cool. So if you do that, and in return, if you're watching on our YouTube page, again, that's called Mad Radio Texas, youtube.com, search Mad Radio Texas, jump on over to Facebook, and just in the search bar, put Mad Radio, click on it, give us a like, follow us, and, as well as a badge of honor. And because we are doing a lot of things at a badge of honor. If you are a first responder, and we are putting on a workshop very similar to what Dr. Tina does. You get real life, me, John, you get, we have Jeff, who is a current police officer. We also have social workers and lots of folks that are in there for you. Visit badgeofhonor.com. April 23rd, we have a workshop in Rowlett, Texas. So if you are a first responder, you know first responders, get them to badgeofhonor.com. You can register right there on the website. We feed you breakfast, lunch, and snacks. For first responders that are in a Texas agency, 8 hours of T-Cole. We got you covered. The biggest thing we want to let you know is you are absolutely not alone in this fight. As you heard, you know, Dr. Jaeckle, huge, huge resource. We've got the resources right here for you in Texas as well. So you are not alone. And if you want to support Mad Radio, and so we can keep doing this show and the awesome things that we're doing, visit badgeofhonor.com, click on Mad Radio at the top. There's a donate button. And I have incredibly awesome news, folks. A Badge of Honor is now a Texas nonprofit corporation. We just got our paperwork from Texas. So Badge of Honor is now a Texas nonprofit corporation. I'm going to be putting out more on Facebook about that. So every penny counts to go for the good fight to help our first responders out there. And to all the first responders, we love you. We are praying for you every day. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and know that you are not alone. And until next week, guys, this has been Sam with Mad Radio. John will be back next week. Take care.
After working for 20 plus years as a police officer, not having backup is kind of scary. While I was trying to heal from the traumas that had put me in the position that I was in, I suddenly lost all the support of all the guys I worked with.
Just because we don't see it doesn't mean that we don't picture it in our head. I never thought that I would have to deal with that type of call, and I was not prepared.
I remember the moment I was like, okay, I was up all night. It was just trauma after trauma after trauma. You know, the novelty of the job wore off really quick.
They didn't offer any help. They said I needed to see a psychiatrist, that there was probably nothing wrong with me, that I was just being a baby about it.
I couldn't think of how to get help without ruining my job.
I know personally, on many occasions, that a police officer could go in and ask for help, and the chief would fire him.
They forced me to resign because they just could not understand how that could have affected me, since I was just a dispatcher.
I just thought to myself, if I can't do this job, what can I do? What else? I put all the eggs in this basket. Who am I if I'm not a firefighter?
I have, 4 years till retirement, and I gotta be okay, and I gotta make it.